Today we're going to talk about a second update on the Kepler. I asked a bunch of questions to Ariel Rider. They got back to me, so we're going to go through some of those. But first we're going to go through my database that I've been working on. I'm actually working on one for a whole bunch of different bikes, so stay tuned for that. This is a comparison to all the 26 by 4 inch electric bikes available that are top competitors to the Kepler. Now, every one of them might not be on here. There may be several other 26 by 4 inch e-bikes that I haven't put on the list yet. But as of right now, this is the current ones that I find that are the most competitive in terms of pricing and specs and all of the things that they have to offer. So if you look through this list, we got Ariel Rider Kepler, the Hemingway Cruiser, the Magicycle Cruiser, the Aventon Adventure, Rad Power Rad Rover 6 Plus, the Be Cool Adventure, the Be Cool Explorer, and the Be Cool Pathfinder. Now these three bikes are a little bit different in terms of the way they look. I think the Adventure is the one that looks closest to the Kepler and the Cruiser, but the styling of these frames are a little bit different between all the bikes. The closest one's going to be the Hemingway, the Magicycle, and the Rad Rover 6 Plus. So the Kepler, if you look in terms of prices, one of the most expensive as far as manufacturer retail price, but their current price is $200 off for $17.99. It's a really competitive price for what you get with this bike. As you can see, it has one of the bigger batteries. In terms of watt hours, it has the most watt hours. If you go over here, you can see the Kepler has the most watt hours out of all of these bikes. So you have 1040 watt hours with the Kepler. The Rad Power 6 Plus has 672, which is the lowest. So at the same price of $19.99, if we're looking at the retail price, the Kepler just blows that one out of the water. Now the Kepler is also only one of two e-bikes that are 52 volt. The 52 volt Magicycle Cruiser has a lesser motor, a smaller battery, and I believe from what I've seen in the reviews, it doesn't have a whole lot of power compared to some of the other bikes on this list. Now the Kepler claims a top speed of 32 miles an hour, has a claimed peak power of 1800 watts, and a 20 amp hour battery with LG cells, which is the top two brands are LG and Samsung. So LG battery cells are really good. I don't know what kind of cells are in there or what the setup is like. So the 20 amp hour battery on the Kepler is going to provide you more range than the one on the Magicycle or the one on the other Be Cool bikes that have the higher amp hours. 21 and 20 is not very much of a difference, but the 52 volt, you're going to get more power, maybe more efficient than the other ones, but your watt hours are higher, so you should get more range. Now the Kepler also claims the highest range out of all of these, so 75 miles is the highest. I doubt you'll ever get that unless you ride PAS1 and you're on flat ground and you weigh like 150 pounds. I would say it's still probably got the most range out of any of these bikes compared to the specs. And I made this list just so we can compare all the different types of bikes that are similar to the Kepler. So here's the Kepler. We've looked at it before in our last video. If you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link in the description as well as a pop-up right now. They've added a few things. One of the key details that I missed on the first video because it wasn't real clear on their website, you do get a free cargo rack if you pre-order right now. I don't know if that's going to go away or when it's going to go away. They did state in their email that they are going to raise the price at the end of May to $19.99. So if you're in a hurry to buy an e-bike or you want to get this e-bike and you don't want to pay the extra $200, even though I think it's worth it if you wait, but if you don't want to and you want to get the cheapest price right now is probably a good time to buy it. Now they are getting a lot of pre-orders according to their email, and there is a very good chance that they may sell out within the first few days of them releasing this bike for sale. So keep that in mind if you're interested in this, you're hanging tight to see what's going to happen or get more info, or you're waiting to see those reviews. Keep in mind that you may come back here and they may be sold out, or the color that you want might be sold out. They might not sell out of all of them, but they might sell out of one color. Let's say you want the blue one. If you want the blue one, they may sell out of this. Blue's a pretty popular color. Same with black and red. There's not very many female bikes out there that look as good as this one, and I think this personally is a really sweet color combination. This one may sell out pretty quick too. Now, they did list the geometry on the Ariel Rider Kepler now. So they have all the measurements as far as the height of the bike, if you're going to fit on it. handlebar height, things like that. So you can go in here and you can look at this, but here it is right here. So let's do a little comparison of these bikes so we can see why you want to pick the Kepler over all the other ones. So again, we talked about the price, $17.99 for a 1800 watt peak motor, 52 volt system with a 1040 watt hours and a top speed of 32 miles an hour, and then a claim range of 35 to 75 miles. I'd say that's the best deal out of all of these. Now, you are going to pay a little bit more than you would for, like, say, the Hemiway Cruiser. If you don't need that extra power, you don't need that extra range, then by all means, do what you feel is best. But for $200 more right now, you get a lot more bike with the Kepler. So I put these three at the top because they're all fairly similar as far as the way they look. So if we look at the Kepler and we compare it to the Hemiway, you can see they kind of look similar. Now the frame's a little bit different. This one kind of swoops down and then this one kind of swoops down like this. The batteries look the same as far as the way they're styled. If you compare the Hemiway to the Magicycle, they're fairly similar. If you just look at them, they look the same. And then if you compare the Magicycle to the Kepler, fairly similar in terms of style. So these three bikes are really similar in the way they look. Now there's only a couple of these bikes that have hydraulic brakes. The rest of them have mechanical. The Hemiway Cruiser has mechanical brakes and not hydraulic brakes. In terms of quality, hydraulic brakes all the way. The Magicycle has mechanical brakes. The Be Cool doesn't say if their brakes are hydraulic or mechanical, but most likely it looks like they're mechanical out of all their bikes. The Rad Power Rad Rover 6 Plus has hydraulic brakes. So out of all these bikes, the only three that have hydraulic brakes are the Kepler, the Aventon Adventure, and the Rad Rover 6 Plus. Now, some of these bikes do not include the rear rack. Again, the Kepler may not include the rear rack after this promo deal that they're doing, but the Cruiser comes with one, the Hemiway Cruiser and the Magicycle Cruiser. The Be Explorer has one, and then the Pathfinder and the Pathfinder Step Through, they do not have a rear rack, so you do have to buy those extra. And the Rad Rover 6 Plus does not have a rear rack. So at $19.99 for the Rad Rover, you do not get a rear rack, but you do get fenders. With the Kepler, you get fenders, you get front suspension, you get a headlight and a tail light, hydraulic brakes, a rear rack, pretty big motor, pretty big battery, and a really good price at $17.99 right now. So keep that in mind. Now the Aventon Adventure comes in three different colors: sand, camouflage green, and fire black. So this one is $19.99. It does not include the rear rack. This is one of the more expensive bikes with less specs. So keep that in mind. If you look at the Aventon, it has a current price of $19.99 with a 15 amp hour battery, 750 watt motor, 720 watt hours, which is the second lowest, and a claim range of 45 miles. And that goes with the Rad Rover. $19.99, 14 amp hour battery, 750 watt, 672 watt hours. So the two of the most expensive bikes on this list have a whole lot less specs in terms of battery power, motor power, and that kind of stuff. Now, you are paying a little bit more for the Rad Power bikes because they do have a little bit bigger community. They have a great customer service base. They're well known. They're one of the first e-bike companies out there, and they've been around for a while, so they've kind of got it nailed down. They also have some really cool features on their bikes, which is why you pay a little bit more for this with the less specs. So keep that in mind. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a worse bike than the Ariel Rider Kepler, but if I was choosing between out of all of these, you know where my choice is. Probably the biggest competitor to the Ariel Rider Kepler is the Hemiway Cruiser and the Magicycle Cruiser, because they're pretty much the same bike. Now, they all have pretty much the same specs, especially the Hemiway Cruiser and the Kepler, except for the fact that the Kepler just has a bigger motor, bigger battery, and still has hydraulic brakes, front suspension, pretty much all the same stuff that the Hemiway Cruiser does, aside from the cheaper price. This has less power, less capacity, all that stuff. So keep that in mind. The Kepler is the best deal out of this whole list. What we're going to do next is go through all the questions that I asked Ariel Rider and see what their answers are. So that'll be the next segment here. And if you have any questions that I did not ask Ariel Rider, make sure you leave them in the comments section. And if you didn't see the first video where I do a full overview of the Ariel Rider Kepler, I'm going to leave a link in the description as well as a pop-up now. So you can go in there and see the last video and compare the Kepler to all these other bikes on your own. Now I will put up a link to this database once I get it finished, so you can go in here and you can do your own comparison. I think the Ariel Rider Kepler is the #1 deal right now in terms of specs, battery, motor, top speed, range. It beats every other bike in this category currently in April of 2022 when I'm making this video. So the first question I asked was, what is the estimated ship date for the Kepler? And it is listed on their website. Orders placed on 4/1 of 22 and after will be shipping late May. The next question, do you currently have stock in the US? And their answer was, except for the demo units, we do not. We're waiting for shipment to arrive. So it doesn't look like they have any in stock yet. Next question is, do you have parts available if anything were to happen during the shipment process? And they said that they do have those parts in stock. They're pretty standard parts, so obviously they're going to have those available if something were to go wrong. When should we expect that the replacement/additional batteries to be available for the Kepler? Their response was, right when the bikes are being shipped. Pretty straightforward. When do you plan on raising the price for the Kepler? And their response was late May. Another question I asked, are you seeing a lot of pre-orders on your end? And their response was absolutely. After they sell out of the first batch of bikes, the price will increase. Next question, will it be possible that they will sell out relatively quickly? And from the looks of it, they said yes. My question for them next was, are you aiming the bike at DoorDash or Uber Eats drivers because of the large capacity rack? And their answer was yes, but not only that, the Kepler is designed to be a car replacement, which requires a lot of cargo space, which makes sense given the gas prices. Do you have a weight capacity for the rear rack, and that is 77 pounds? And finally, the last question in regards to the Kepler, what are the weight and dimensions of the bike? Well, the dimensions are located on their website now, but the weight of the bike is 78 pounds and that includes the battery. So the final question that I asked them that's related to all of us Rideal owners, is there going to be a Rideal 2.0 on the horizon? And their response was, not at this time. So thanks for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe for more. There's going to be more content just like this and more reviews, rides, and installs, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. Like this video if you liked it. If you have any more questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.